Okay, if you're new to deer hunting and watched our last video, which was rubs, scrapes, and what's the rut, today we're going to discuss stand placement. Where do you put your stand to give you your best chance to get your deer? Okay, stand locations. Maybe it's not so much as which way do they go as it is why are they going that way? What is it that's causing deer to move from one location to another? Now I'm going to take water out of the equation. Everything needs to drink, but we're going to take that out. We're going to leave ourselves with the two main things deer are looking for. They're looking for a place to eat. They're looking for a place to sleep. So what you need to find is their food source. Where are they going to eat? What is their food source? Where is their bedding area? Where do they have some thick cover that they like to hide during the day? Once you have those two things located, it's this spot in the middle that's important. The trail we talked about that you found with scrapes on it, it's somewhere in the middle. It's that trail. That's the important part. The deer are moving from a bedding area where they spent the day. They're heading out to a feeding area where they're going to spend the night browsing through cornfields, bean fields, or stuff like that. So locating these things are the first thing on the agenda. Now in some parts of the country, you won't have cornfields, bean fields, alfalfa fields that they'll go out into at night. Maybe you're in an area where it's just strictly nothing but woods. There is still a food source. Now, I'm not going to be able to address that too well because I'm in farm country. I'm used to them coming out in fields at night. Find somebody there locally that can help you out. You need to know what are the food sources and what time of year are they using those food sources. Once you have that in mind, you can look for that. Then you can look for the bedding areas. Then you can look for your spot in the middle, where to put your stand. In some parts of the country, you may have a ridge that's solid oak trees. And when the acorns are falling, that becomes a great food source for deer. But in September, I doubt that's a good food source because they're probably still all hanging on the tree. Come November, maybe that's the place to go. Again, find somebody locally that can help you with that, and then you'll know where you're going for your food source, and then you can figure out where you're going for your bedding source. But for this video, we're going to stick with farm country because that's basically what I know. Now, for us, the cornfields, bean fields, stuff like that, in the summertime, they can be used year-round for the deer. It's a bedding source, it's a food source, it's everything they want. But around here in the fall, when the corn's been combined and the beans are gone, all that cover is gone, and the woods or the trees near the river bottoms, the brushy areas, that's what they have left for a bedding area, for an area to hide out. And the fields that they maybe spent time in the summer, during the day, now they basically just spend their nights out there because they're wide open. But in the cover of darkness, they don't mind. So in our case, what we look for are trails where the deer are coming out into the fields at night to graze and browse and find whatever corn they can or beans or whatever they can find out there. Maybe it's an alfalfa patch they're going out to. That's what we're looking for. And then we look for that set of woods where we know they're probably bedding out during the day, it's thick cover, and we look for our trails. Now, let's say you're doing this. You have a situation like this, you found a trail where they're coming out into, say, a combine cornfield. And it's a great trail, you found scrapes along it, you know this is it, this is the trail you want, you're gonna set up there. Do not set up right on the edge of the field. I know you probably watch some TV shows and there's guys out here and they've got a food plot and they're all set up next to the edge of the food plot. Maybe it works in situations like that. But what you'll find here, if you're out in just a cornfield or a bean field or something where there are no food plots, the deer are just coming out, they're going to hang up on the edge of those trees. They're not going to come out until late. In Nebraska, we can shoot till 30 minutes after sundown. A lot of times those deer are not stepping out of there until sundown or that 30 minutes after, and a lot of times that's just does and small bucks. The bigger buck, he's hanging off back in the trees a ways. He's probably not going to come out till it's fully dark unless he really feels an urge to. There's a doe, a receptive doe, and it's during the rut. So what you want to do is take your blind, your stand that you're setting up, move back in a ways, follow that trail back, I don't know, 25, 50, 100 yards. It's going to depend on your terrain. Figure out a spot there, and that's where you're going to want to set up. back in the woods just a little bit. The farther back in you are, the better chance that you're going to be able to ambush them before they get on past where you're going to be sitting. Now, as I said, how far back do you get from that food source? Man, that's going to depend on the lay of the land where you're at. What's the topography like? Do we have a nice little, maybe a creek bed that they're coming down that they're using? Or do you have two hills that'll come down to a valley where they're kind of using that area? Topography can determine where they're actually going, or where that trail's going, or where you find a spot that you can restrict their movement. That's where you're going to want your stand. Anytime you can take that broad area and restrict it to a small area, you want to try to be in that location. To give you an example, here we get a little frustrated. I mentioned we have 300 acres of woods where we hunt on the river bottom. It's basically flat. I mean, you can look at that and see it's about 6 feet taller. That's the biggest rise in the ground we have around here. So it's basically flat. It's all woods. The deer can go anywhere. About a quarter mile that way at the top of the hill is where the deer come out of a bean field or cornfield, cross the road, and they start into the woods. And that's the neighbor's ground. Now the neighbor allows no one to hunt in there, so the deer move through his ground to get to the ground where we're at. What usually happens is there is one trail as the deer cross the road. One spot the deer cross the road, they start in the woods. But as they start down those woods, they've got a quarter mile to get here. That trail branches into two. And a little later, those two branch into four. And sometimes they'll branch into 5, 6, or 7. And by the time they get to us, I can take you along the fence line and probably show you 7 different locations where the deer will cross and come onto our property, where we can hunt. The problem we have is, which one? They all started on one trail. Then depending on whether they took a left or a right, did they take this one or this one? And then again, depending on if they took a left or a right, which one did they take again? Until they finally get down to here to us, and I'm sitting on this trail and he used another one. And the next day he's back using mine. And the next day they're back using that one. So we are far enough away from the food source, it can be frustrating for us. I would much rather be closer to that food source. I don't want to be on the edge, but I'd like to be closer before they get to make too many decisions which way they're going to go. Every time they make a decision left or right, increases your odds of not seeing something. So keep that in mind as you're trying to decide, where am I going to put my stand? Okay, so you found your trail. You found your area that you can restrict the movement of the deer so you can have a smaller window of opportunity. Now you have to make your decision, which side of the trail are you going to put the stand on, depending on the prevailing winds. In our case, for us, in the mornings, the deer all move east to west. And in the evenings, they all move west to east. So that means the majority of our trails basically run an east-west course. Sometimes there's a little angle, but it's pretty much all east-west trails. That's kind of nice for us because you either have a north or a south wind. And as I've mentioned before in other videos, we try to put 2 stands, one on either side. So if it's a north wind, I'm in one stand. If it's a south wind, I'm in the other stand. Maybe you'll have a climber, and that solves that problem. Maybe you've got a climber and all now you need to do is find 2 trees. Again, one on either side of the trail, and depending what the wind is the day you're there, that's the tree you use. But keep wind direction in mind. You want to stay downwind. I know they make lots of little scent cover things you can buy, but the best thing you can possibly do is stay downwind. You do that, your chances increase dramatically. Okay, so that's my second installment of Deer Hunting 101 for those of you that are just starting out hunting and hoping to watching a few videos to see if you can learn a thing or two. Again, I'm not sure if I teach anybody anything, but we'll tell you what I know, and maybe it helps and maybe it doesn't. So thanks for sticking with me. Hope to see you again real soon.